What starts as a perfect getaway for five friends soon turns into a nightmare as they discover their reflections in the mirror moving independently. As strange occurrences escalate, the friends find an old journal that reveals a dark past and an ominous ritual. Trapped in a horrifying reality where their reflections are no longer their own, Lauren fights to save her friends and herself from the sinister forces within the cabin. Will she uncover the truth and escape? Or will they all be consumed by the cabin's malevolent spirits? Watch this spine chilling tale of friendship, fear, and the supernatural unfold. Don't miss this gripping story. Like, comment, and subscribe for more thrilling adventures.
The cabin's reflection. It was supposed to be one last trip, one final summer together before college tore us apart. Me, Jake, Emily, Ryan, and Sophie. 5 best friends renting a cabin deep in the woods for a week. No parents, no responsibilities, just campfires, hiking, and memories. The cabin was old but beautiful, a rustic wooden lodge surrounded by towering trees. We laughed as we unpacked, racing to claim our rooms. Everything felt perfect. Until that night. Until I saw it. I was in the bathroom brushing my teeth, half asleep. The dim light flickered overhead. I glanced at the mirror, and then I noticed it. My reflection moved slower than me, not by much, but when I raised my toothbrush, it lagged behind. For a second, I thought I was just tired. I waved my hand. My reflection did the same. A beat too late, a chill crawled up my spine. I leaned closer, but it looked just like me. Same messy hair, same tired eyes. I shook my head, forcing a laugh. I was imagining things. Or at least, I thought I was. Until breakfast the next morning, the 5 of us sat around the kitchen table, eating cereal and bacon. Emily yawned, rubbing her face. Then, casually, she said, something weird happened last night. Jake looked up. Weird how? Emily hesitated. Then, she said it. My reflection. It was delayed. I froze mid-bite. Ryan laughed. No way, I saw the same thing. Sophie rolled her eyes. Okay, now you guys are messing with me. Jake shrugged. Hate to say it, but I noticed it too. The room went silent. I felt my heart thud harder. 4 of us had seen it. 4 people seeing the same impossible thing. That wasn't coincidence. Something was wrong. By afternoon, we had mostly shaken it off. We swam in the lake, roasted marshmallows, played music. But in the back of my mind, I couldn't shake the unease. Then, while exploring the cabin, Ryan found something strange. An old journal, tucked behind a loose brick in the fireplace. It was dusty, yellowed, the pages filled with shaky handwriting. We gathered in the living room as Ryan read aloud. June 3rd, 1967. I see it now. My reflection is slower, it lags behind. June 5th, 1967. I am not alone in the mirror. June 7th, 1967. I must leave before it takes me. A chill spread through my entire body. Jake shut the book. No one spoke. Then Emily whispered, "Do you think this happened before?" I licked my lips. I didn't want to answer, because deep down, I knew the truth. It had. And we were next. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The journal sat on the nightstand beside me, its words burned into my mind. Then, a sound. Soft. Barely audible. A whisper. I sat up, heart pounding. It was coming from the bathroom. I swallowed hard, stepping out of bed. The air was cold, wrong. I pushed the bathroom door open and saw Emily standing in front of the mirror. Her back was to me, but her reflection was staring at me. I gasped. Emily? She didn't move. Then, her reflection smiled, but her real body didn't. I stumbled backward. Emily turned. Slowly, too slowly. Her eyes were wrong. She tilted her head. "Lauren," she whispered, "something's inside the mirror." Then the lights flickered, and when they came back on, Emily's reflection was gone. By morning, Emily was different. She was quieter, paler. When she spoke, her voice wasn't quite right, like something was mimicking her. Jake pulled me aside. "She's not acting like herself," he whispered. I swallowed. "I saw something last night." Ryan and Sophie joined us, their faces pale. Ryan clenched his jaw. "We need to leave." Sophie crossed her arms. "And tell people what? Our reflections are haunted?" Jake ran a hand through his hair. "We finish the week, then we go home. No more mirrors, no more talking about it." But I knew it wasn't that simple. Because that night, Emily wasn't the only one acting strange. Ryan's reflections stopped matching him, then Jake's, then Sophie's. One by one, the real them faded, and the reflections took over. By the 6th night, I was the only one left. They looked like my friends, sounded like them, but they weren't them anymore. Their voices were too smooth, their movements were too perfect, like they had practiced being human, but hadn't quite mastered it. I locked myself in my room, gripping the journal. On the last page, scrawled in rushed handwriting, "Break the mirrors. It's the only way." My heart pounded. I had one chance to stop them before I was next. I crept through the cabin, hammer in hand. The first mirror shattered under the blow, and I heard them scream, not in pain, but in rage. I smashed another, and another. The reflections inside the glass twisted, warped, clawing to escape. Then, the cabin shook, the air rippled, and my friends collapsed. For a second, I thought I had saved them. Then, Jake's head snapped up. His eyes were pitch black, his lips curled into a grin. "You're too late, Lauren." A hand grabbed my wrist, my own hand. I turned and saw my reflection, smiling, reaching, pulling me inside. I woke up on the floor. My friends were gone. The cabin was silent. I checked my phone. It was Sunday. The week was over. I stumbled outside, gasping for air. The trees swayed gently in the breeze. Everything looked normal. But as I stepped into my car, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. And my reflection didn't blink. It just smiled. I should have driven away. Should have left the cabin behind and never looked back. But I couldn't move. My hands gripped the steering wheel too tight, my breathing too shallow. Because my reflection, the thing in the rearview mirror, wasn't me. It sat motionless, lips curling into a slow, deliberate smile. And then it winked, a wink I never did. I slammed the car door open and stumbled out. I needed air. I needed to be anywhere but here. But when I turned toward the cabin, Jake, Emily, Ryan, and Sophie stood on the porch, watching me, waiting. And I realized I wasn't free yet. My heart pounded. They looked normal, like my friends, but something about them was wrong. Their posture too stiff, their faces too blank, like they were waiting for me to do something. Ryan stepped forward. "Lauren," he said, voice smooth, "come back inside." I shook my head. "I'm leaving." Emily tilted her head, her smile too perfect. "You don't want to leave us, do you?" My stomach twisted. I stepped backward toward the car. Jake took another step. "You never really left, Lauren." His eyes. They were all black, pits of empty, endless darkness. And when they smiled, it was like something else was wearing their skin, something that had been waiting for me to come back. I didn't think. I ran. Straight into the forest, past the trees, past the dirt road. I didn't stop until my legs burned. Until I was sure they weren't following me. Then, a whisper, soft, right behind me. "Lauren, why are you running?" I turned too fast, my foot catching on a root. I crashed to the ground. A hand touched my shoulder. I flinched, looking up. Emily, only not Emily. Her head tilted too far to the side, her grin splitting wider than it should. "You're supposed to stay with us," she whispered. I scrambled backward. Her eyes were empty, her voice too hollow, and when she reached for me again, Her fingers weren't fingers anymore. They were stretched, twisted, mirror-like, like something made of glass and shadows, like something that wasn't human. I ran. I ran until I saw a clearing ahead, the edge of the woods, the road home. I burst through the trees and slammed to a stop. The cabin was in front of me, exactly where I had started. My lungs squeezed. No, that's not possible. I turned around. The path behind me was gone. It was just endless trees. My hands shook. I backed up, staring at the impossible sight in front of me. The cabin was waiting. The door creaked open. Inside, my friend stood in the darkness, smiling. And then, from behind me, a voice whispered, "You can't run from yourself." I whirled around, and I saw her standing a few feet away. She had my face, my clothes, my voice, but she wasn't me. Her movements were off, like a puppet being controlled by invisible strings. She took a step forward, her eyes dead and empty. "You don't belong here anymore," she whispered. A shiver ran down my spine. "Who are you?" She smiled. "I'm you." Then she lunged. I stumbled back, heart hammering. She was fast. Too fast. She grabbed my wrist and her fingers were ice cold. I struggled, kicked, screamed. Her grip tightened. "You have to choose," she whispered. Her voice was warped, shifting between mine and something darker, a voice that didn't belong to anything human. "You can leave," she said softly, "but only if someone else takes your place." My blood ran cold. I looked at my friends, if they were still my friends, at the cabin, waiting for me to return. And I knew, if I didn't choose, I would be trapped here forever, just like them, just like whoever had been here before us. The cabin needed a sacrifice, and it was my turn to decide. I acted fast. I yanked my hand free and shoved her backward. She stumbled, just for a second, but it was enough. I turned and ran toward the cabin, straight through the door where my friends were waiting. Their smiles widened, their eyes gleamed, and as I stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind me. I barely had time to turn around before the world shifted. The cabin disappeared, and I was home. I woke up in my bed, my real bed. Sunlight streamed through the windows. My phone was on my nightstand. It was over. I was free. I let out a shaky breath and walked to the bathroom. I needed to see myself, to know I was still me. I turned on the light, stepped in front of the mirror. My reflection stared back. It looked normal. I let out a small, relieved laugh. Then it blinked, a second too late, and smiled. My stomach twisted. My reflection wasn't right. It blinked too late, smiled too wide. I staggered back from the mirror, my breath coming in short gasps. No, I made it out. I made it home. Didn't I? I shut my eyes, willing the fear away. It's just in my head, a lingering nightmare from that horrible week. I counted to 3 and forced myself to look again. The reflection was still there, but this time, it wasn't moving at all, like a photograph, staring at me, waiting. And then, cold, too cold. A chill crawled down my spine. Then, my reflection tilted its head, a motion I never made. I stumbled back, slamming into the sink. This isn't possible. I turned to run, and then I saw it. The room behind my reflection. It wasn't my bathroom. The walls were wooden, dark, familiar, like the cabin. I sucked in a sharp breath. The cabin was still there, still waiting, still inside me. Or worse, I was still inside it. I forced myself to leave the bathroom, told myself I was just tired, paranoid. But as I stepped into the hallway, something felt wrong. The house was too quiet. No distant hum of the fridge, no ticking of the old grandfather clock. It was silent, like a place where time had stopped. I went to my room, yanked open my dresser drawer. Inside, my clothes were there, but they weren't mine. Slightly different, like someone had tried to replicate my life but got small details wrong. I grabbed my phone off the nightstand, Opened my contacts, scrolled to Jake's number, dialed, ringing. My hands shook. Then a voice answered, but it wasn't his voice. Lauren. My blood ran cold. It was my voice. I hung up, heart pounding. I went back to the mirror. My reflection was still smiling, still standing in that cabin. Then, slowly, it reached forward, pressed its hand against the glass, and I felt it, like it was touching me back, a pulling sensation, like something was dragging me forward. I fought it, shook my head, whispered, "No, no, this isn't real." The reflection's smile widened, and then it stepped forward, through the glass, into my world. I fell back, scrambling away. It stood there, adjusting its shirt. My shirt, flexing its fingers, testing them, like someone trying on new skin. Then it looked at me. "You shouldn't have come back," it whispered. I shook my head. "You're not me." "No, Lauren, you're not you." And suddenly I understood. I was still on the wrong side. I hadn't escaped at all. I was still inside the mirror, trapped, watching, while the thing that wore my face walked away, living my life, and no one would ever know. It's been weeks, I don't know how long exactly. Time doesn't move here. I scream, but no one hears me. I pound against the glass, but it never breaks. And my reflection, the thing wearing my life, is happy. It laughs. It talks to my friends. It hugs my parents. It is me. And me? I am nothing but a shadow in the mirror, waiting, watching, hoping that one day someone else will look too closely, and then maybe, just maybe, the cabin will trade places again. Time didn't exist here. There was no day or night, no hunger, no thirst, only reflections. A twisted, glassy world that looked like my own but felt wrong, like a hollow version of reality. I wandered through the cabin's mirror world, searching for a way out. The air was thick, heavy, like walking through water. The furniture was here, the walls, the doors, but everything was silent. Too silent. Then a soft shuffling from upstairs. I wasn't alone. I followed the noise, stepping cautiously up the creaking staircase. At the end of the hall, a door was open. Inside, a figure sat in a rocking chair. A woman. Old. Frail. Her skin like paper. Her eyes lifted to meet mine, and I stopped breathing. Because she looked just like me. Or rather, she had. Once. Her lips curled into a knowing smile. "Well, well," she rasped. "Another one." I swallowed hard. "Who are you?" Her sunken eyes studied me. "I was you," she whispered. "A long time ago." I felt cold all over. You were trapped here?" She nodded. "The cabin takes what it needs," she murmured. "It stole me and replaced me with something else, just like it did to me." I shuddered. "How long have you been here?" Her gaze dropped to her wrinkled hands. "Too long," she whispered. "Time doesn't work here, but I know one thing." She lifted her eyes, and for the first time, I saw hope in them. "There's a way out." She explained the rules. "The cabin doesn't just trap people, it replaces them. For every new person it takes, the old one is discarded, forgotten." I nodded. "So if we bring it someone new, we can leave?" The old woman smiled. "We don't need someone new," she said. "We already have a trade." I frowned. "Who?" Her eyes darkened. "The one wearing your skin, dear." A chill slithered through me, the thing pretending to be me. If we could trap it here, we could take back our places, but we had to do it fast, before it became me completely. We waited, and when the moment came, we pushed. The glass shuddered like water, rippling as the cabin groaned around us. The mirror roll fractured. I saw my real body standing in the bathroom, staring into the mirror. The imposter me froze. It knew. Its smile vanished, and in that moment the old woman shoved me forward. "Go!" she cried. I lunged toward the mirror, and everything went black. I gasped, sucking in air. I was on the bathroom floor. My body ached, my hands trembled. I was back. I scrambled to the mirror. The reflection matched me. It was really me. I turned, ready to thank the old woman. But she was still there, still inside. She smiled softly. "Go ahead, dear," she whispered. "You have a body to go back to. I don't." My chest tightened. "Wait," I stammered. "We can find a way to—" She lifted a frail hand, pressing it to the glass. Her smile didn't falter. "This was always the plan," she said. "One of us had to stay. And then—" She let go. The mirror sealed shut. Her reflection faded. And she was gone. The cabin is gone. Burned to the ground, nothing but ashes. I try to forget, try to move on. But sometimes when I pass by a mirror, I hesitate. Because I can still see her, the old woman. Not always, not clearly, just a flicker in the glass. A shape watching me from the other side, waiting. And I wonder, if I had stayed just a moment longer, would I have seen her smile one last time? Would I have seen her smile one last time? Would I have gotten a chance to thank her for saving my life? Thanks for joining us on another thrilling quest. We hope you enjoyed unraveling today's mystery. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Thrill Quests to keep the adventure alive. And remember, there's always another mystery waiting to be solved, so be sure to tune in for tomorrow's episode. Until then, stay curious and keep questing.